Trains and automobiles. Despite being a fantastic film starring Steve Martin and the late great John Candy, they have also traditionally been the only way to traverse the landscapes of our modern Earth. But what if there was something better? What if you could get on board a vehicle in London, take a seat in a capsule for 20 or so minutes and find yourself stepping out into Morocco? It may sound like a stuff of science fiction, and well, it is technically, but in actuality we're closer than you may think toward instantaneous global travel. Let me introduce you to the Hyperloop network, and let's figure out just how and why it could potentially change everything forever. Hello internet, what's going on? And once again, welcome back to the most inquisitive channel on YouTube, Life's Biggest Questions. As per usual, I'll be your disembodied floating voice, Jack Finch, as today we curiously ask the question, what if Earth had a global Hyperloop network? Roll the clip. For the curious amongst you, that clip was from 2015's Tomorrowland, which wasn't exactly the greatest movie of all time, but it had some stunning visual depictions of a highly advanced technological society, and yet thankfully for us, we won't need to travel to an alternate dimension to experience the functions of Hyperloop technology, because as I said previously, we're much closer than you may expect to achieving instantaneous global transportation. But before we jump into the implications of a Hyperloop network on a global scale, let's first take a quick look at just exactly what this thing is. In essence, a Hyperloop is a mode of transportation that consists of a system of sealed tubes through which a pod-like vessel is propelled free of air resistance or friction, conveying people or objects at massive speeds while also being very efficient. In essence, it's what you get if you cross a railway with those pneumatic mail chutes you see in the post office, just on a massive scale. But actually, the biggest proponent of the Hyperloop concept, the man himself, Elon Musk, who initially publicly proposed the Hyperloop back in 2012, described it as a cross between a Concorde, a railgun, and an air hockey table. So, there we go. Another thing that Elon Musk is better at than me. Analogies. Musk marked the prospect of a hypothetical Hyperloop system with having 5 key characteristics for being successful for civilization. 1, being immune to all weather. 2, being able to operate collision-free. 3, capable of traveling at twice the speed of a plane. 4, operating at a low power consumption. And 5, containing enough infrastructure and energy storage to operate at 24 hours a day. Through this model of operation, it hypothetically hits all the marks of any society's transportation wish list, because in essence that's everything anyone has ever wanted from mass transportation. Move people and things from A to B in the fastest possible way in the most efficient manner. When we break down these 5 key characteristics, we can avidly see the flaws in our current modes of mass transit. Planes are awesome, but they burn a hell of a lot of fossil fuels, and it takes massive amounts of energy to propel a giant steel bird at 135,000 feet in the air for a few hours. Cars are fun and sleek and stylish, but sitting in traffic sucks, and breathing in noxious fumes isn't exactly everyone's cup of tea. Boats are great, they're full of adventure and nautical romance, but they're slow, and they have a habitual history of leaking. So the alternative then, as is the course of human history, would rely on a breakthrough technology, and that's exactly what the Hyperloop concept is. And also, as you may or may not know, it's already been doing it for years now, as Elon Musk, SpaceX and Tesla have open sourced the same conceptual technology to everyone. And since then, dozens of researchers and engineers have jumped on the idea of trying their damnedest to shoot a pod through a tube in the safest and most efficient means possible. Yeah, it seems simple when you say it like that, doesn't it? And in actual fact, one of those open source compadres, Richard Branson's Virgin Hyperloop One, recently signed an intent agreement with the Indian government to construct a Hyperloop system between Mumbai and the city of Pune, which will cut a 4-hour journey to just 25 minutes. And once that's out of the way, after that, the possibilities are endless. Las Vegas to Los Angeles in 30 minutes, Toronto to Montreal in 39 minutes, Abu Dhabi to Dubai in just 12 minutes. It sounds awesome, right? And one thing's for certain, our planet would become much more efficient. But here's the stick in the mud. Anything that requires a lot of people, as in the mass transportation and reshifting of populations that a global Hyperloop network would deliver, also requires a lot of governance. How would we deal with a Hyperloop journey that connected 3 different cities in 3 different countries along this route? Would we have to breach customs in every country because bureaucracy has a habit of slowing things down, whereas the Hyperloop's prime directive is to speed things up? One of the glaringly obvious advantages of a global Hyperloop network is the theoretical advantage of being able to commute from pretty much anywhere and everywhere on the planet. In theory, you could live in Glasgow and travel to work in Paris every morning with less stress than the average city commute in a bus or a car. You could spend half a day in Mexico City, then be in Las Vegas for dinner. But the thing is, how would cities deal with this new untapped influx of people? If London suddenly gained tens of thousands of new workers from Helsinki in its daily commute that didn't even live there, is that going to boost the economy or just put more strain on the city's infrastructures? How would the municipal factor be affected? Who's going to check their exports? And then there's the whole issue of safety. The main advantage of a Hyperloop network is in its ability to transport a vessel at speeds of up to 800 miles per hour whilst also travelling in an airtight vacuum. But what happens when a natural disaster strikes? What if an earthquake shifts its tube system ever so slightly? How would emergency services even get inside a tube system that is devoid of all air to save the people inside? And now apply all of those issues thousands of times a day across the planet. Who's going to keep an eye on all of those potential disasters? Who's going to be checking the dials and monitoring the bleeps and the red flashing lights? Well, artificial intelligence. That's who. A global artificial intelligence, for that matter, and hopefully its name won't be Skype. You see, all of these are valid safety issues, but all of them have a feasible answer and explanation that's already been thought of during its design. The issue isn't in addressing these safety concerns or any other concerns for that matter, it's in the execution of them. You see, people are slow. Bureaucracy and safety features take manpower and effort, but with a
Hey guys, Ron here, and the idea of evolution has always been an interest of mine, whether it be via instantaneous metamorphosis like Pokemon evolution, or natural selection, like how the animals in the real world evolve over thousands and millions of years. I just like the idea of creatures taking on a new form and having new powers. That's why I'm also perplexed by the Pokemon who don't evolve. Of course, the actual reason Pokemon like Quillfish or Chatot don't have any evolutions is because Game Freak doesn't want them to. But in this video, I'm going to theorize the biological and environmental reasons as to why all the Pokemon who don't belong to a family never evolve. Pokemon evolve to become more powerful or adapt to their environment. But why don't Komala or Suckletree? Let me tell you why I think that is, in Pokedex order, excluding legendaries and mythicals, because they're already already stronger than most Pokemon and have no need to evolve. Keep in mind that this is just a thought exercise. Most of these are not canonical answers. Farfetch'd is a good first example. In this video, you'll see that there are multiple reasons why I believe these Pokemon don't evolve. Either they're already perfect beings, or perfect for their environment needs, are bound to their form, or are actually going extinct and basically devolving. That's actually the case with Farfetch'd. The Farfetch'd population is declining for multiple reasons. They're pretty stupid and can't live without their sticks. They're often hunted and aren't strong enough to really prevent their extinction. But I don't have time to feel sorry for them. There are tons of Pokemon in this list, so let's move on to the next Pokemon. Kangaskhan is actually pretty strong and dominant. It's a perfect parent and protects its young at all costs, but there are many conflicting reasons as to why they may not evolve. Either they're too successful as a species, or they're unsuccessful as a species and are also going extinct. This may be why in many regions they're housed in private or government properties, and are only female. It may also be a conscious decision because they want to protect their young and do it perfectly in their current state. Perhaps they only evolve if they lose their mother and become Cubone and evolve into a Marowak. Huh? That could be a thing, but that's just a theory. Pinsir may not evolve because it's the strongest predator in its environment. What it can't tear, it tosses. But here's the problem, it depends where it lives. In Kanto, it's in the Safari Zone, so it may be going extinct in Kanto since it's not found in the wild. But for example, it thrives in Alola, where its biggest rival is Vikavolt. Same thing for Tauros. It's rare in Kanto, but is said to have been first tamed in Alola, where it is less rare. So for both Pinsir and Tauros, it seems like they don't evolve for extreme reasons. Either because they aren't suited for the region they debuted in, yet are super powerful, or they thrive in other regions and therefore have no need to evolve. Lapras is also super rare, but maybe for good reasons. They're really intelligent, strong, and can transport anywhere by sea. They can even live in the harsh cold, so considering they're based on aquatic dinosaurs, I'd say they've lived so long because they have the mind and ability to flee to better environments if necessary. They're rare because they're just good at hiding, so they have no need to evolve because they're already adaptable beings. Ditto is a relatively newly discovered Pokemon and can transform into any other pocket monster, so it has no necessity to evolve. Aerodactyl is technically extinct and was already the top predator of its time, so it has no reason to evolve. Unknown usually stays in groups, and when they're together, they can bend reality, so they're already as powerful as gods in the wild. They don't need any boost in power. And again, we're talking about these Pokemon as animals, not in the competitive scene. Giraffarigs are very well equipped for wildlife. They have a second head with a brain that allows them to notice any predator. It's never surprised, so it's never able to be attacked, even in its sleep. So why would this Pokemon need an evolution? It already has all it needs to survive in luxury even. And let's not forget it has psychic powers. This thing is better than all of us. Dunsparce is pretty pathetic. But even though you'd think it would benefit from an evolution, it already has a signature survival tactic that has allowed it to exist for millennia. Whenever danger is afoot, it just digs into the ground. These things are rarely in danger because they live in dark mazes underground. They even happily share their mazes with Diglets. Like Lapras, this thing doesn't need to evolve because danger never catches up to these critters. Quillfish's lack of an evolution is easy to explain. Many water types evolve because the ocean is a deadly environment. There are tons of huge Pokemon that would want to take a bite out of a little water type, so they either need to be aggressive like Basculin or they gotta evolve. But Quillfish is safe because it's super toxic. Nobody's gonna mess with this Pokemon. Like many Pokemon on this list, it has a fantastic defense mechanism. Speaking of defense mechanisms, Shuckle has the highest defense of all non-Mega Pokemon. Its shell is impenetrable. When you literally cannot be eaten, that's pretty much nature's way of saying that you don't need to evolve. Now, Heracross is pretty strong, is a skilled fighter, and eats sap that can be found basically anywhere. If its enemy is somehow stronger, it can just fling it away with its own. It's also super friendly and can make itself some good forest friends. Corsola is another Pokemon that has crazy defenses that will prevent it from being eaten. And instead of evolving whenever it needs a boost in defense, it constantly sheds and grows. And whenever the clean water it needs to survive gets polluted or changes temperatures, it migrates to a better environment. Even in Alola, where it has many more predators, Corsola is stronger due to the nutrients in the sea. Alolan Corsolas have stubbier branches and detach them as a diversion to get away. Again, the Pokemon that don't evolve seem to have a lot of survival tactics and defense mechanisms to compensate for their lack of evolution, which in turn gives them no reason to fully evolve. Delibird lives in an ideal climate and can flourish in warmer climates. If it's attacked, it can just fly away, or, pull out damaging items from its butt. If penguins haven't evolved in a few millennium, then it makes sense that a flying penguin that can store food in its tail wouldn't need to evolve either. Skarmory kills everything around it, and it doesn't need to evolve. Stantler is able to hypnotize any predator, allowing it to escape unharmed. Smeargle is able to learn any move. Miltank is a domestic animal, so it doesn't really need to survive in the wild, therefore it only changes when bred differently. But why would people breed Miltanks to be different when their milk is already packed with nutrients and it's already super cute yet powerful? Hoenn time! Sableye eats rocks. We live on a giant rock, so there's food everywhere for this guy. They also live deep inside caves, so there really isn't anything attacking these dudes. They're also technically dead, I guess so. It's complicated. Mawil's case is the same as Giraffarids, except the mouth it's got behind it is way stronger and also
what happens. These fan theories are blowing our minds. Stay tuned for some wild theories that actually make total sense.
One more. Oh yeah.
Flash forward. At the end of Toy Story 3, Andy went off to college and gave all his toys to Bonnie. But in the trailer for the new Toy Story movie, you see a familiar boy in a red cowboy hat. He's twirling around holding Jessie and Buzz Lightyear. You might think at first glance that this is Andy. After all, he sort of looks like a young Andy, and we know that he used to wear a red cowboy hat. But look closer, that's not Andy. They look very similar, but they're definitely not the same kid. And that's not Andy's room either. Andy's room has clouds. This room has yellow stars. A lot of fans think that we're seeing a time jump way into the future. They believe we're seeing Andy's son. But how did Buzz and Jessie find their way to Andy's kid? This theory is pretty compelling, but we still have a lot of questions. Woody and Bo Peep. After the ending of Toy Story 3, we're pretty sure that Toy Story 4 will make us cry all over again. But how will it end? A lot of people believe that Woody will choose to stay with Bo Peep. Woody was Andy's toy, and although he loves Bonnie, it's just not the same. While Woody is on his adventure, he finds Bo Peep. Bo was his one true love. She went missing sometime between the third and fourth movie. She now lives with him, and she's living a lost toy life. Reddit user Odinum thinks Woody will stay with Bo because he finds a new purpose. Woody is a great guy and there are lots of lost toys. Maybe he stays to help these toys find a new kid. That makes total sense. It seems like something Woody would do, but we have another idea. Woody always had a knack for finding his way back to Andy, so what if he stays to help the lost toys find their way back to their original place? We totally love this theory. Forever young. The toys in Toy Story are alive, but in reality, they're also just toys. It has us wondering, do they have a normal lifespan? If that's the case, Woody would be well into his 70s. He's vintage. But this fan theory suggests that the toys are immortal. Unless they're totally destroyed, these guys live forever. It seems like a great theory at first, but it's actually pretty sad when you think about it. Toys have to go from person to person over and over again. They fall in love with their kid, but then their kid grows up, just like Andy. When Bonnie grows up, the toys will basically experience Toy Story 3 all over again. We'll do that till the end of time. That is a lot of goodbyes. Goodbye forever. According to the trailer, Buzz and the gang go after Woody and Forky, but they're on a road trip, and they end up at a fair where there are lots of people and lots of toys. It's going to be hard to find their way back to Bonnie. Lots of people think that Woody will stay behind, but what about the rest of the toys? Reddit user It's Debatable introduced another ending theory for Toy Story 4. They think that it's not just Woody who is saying goodbye. All the toys are going to find new kids. They'll end up separated and never see each other again. This theory makes sense. The Toy Story movies have been growing up. The third one was about childhood ending. But there's another part of growing up they haven't really covered, and that's becoming a busy adult and seeing your friends less often than before. If you think saying goodbye to longtime friends is hard, wait until you hear our last theory. The Lotso connection. Remember Lotso?
Buzz Lightyear, coming. First thing you gotta know about me, I'm a hugger.
He seemed like such a lovable teddy bear, but he was actually super bitter. He was separated from his human, but by the time he made it home, he had been replaced. It totally turned his soul dark. Woody and Lotso have a lot in common. They were both their kids' #1 toy, and they both get super jealous of other toys. Andy gave Woody away to Bonnie. He had to feel pretty rejected, and we can tell he's taken over as ringleader from the trailer. He tells the toys that they have to be nice to Forky. He's pretty bossy. Is Woody becoming a mean toy just like Lotso? We're not exactly convinced. We just hope Bonnie's love is enough to keep him from turning into a totally evil cowboy. What does it mean to be a toy? The introduction of Forky poses some interesting questions about the Toy Story universe. What does it really mean to be a toy? Forky is having a serious identity crisis.
I don't belong here!
He was never supposed to be able to think and talk. He was supposed to be used once and end up in the trash, but Bonnie puts a face on him and plays with him, and he comes to life. But toys don't have to have a face to be alive in Toy Story. Remember the Etch-a-Sketch? This must mean that anything a child plays with is a toy that can come to life. That may sound cool, but it's actually terrifying. There could be lots of creepy toys out there in Toy Story 4. Woody's imagination. Kids use their imagination to play with toys, and in Toy Story 3, the toys have their own imagination and play a Wild West scene. But what if the toys' imaginations are a lot darker than that? Woody really liked Bonnie when he met her, and he was really sad that Andy didn't play with him anymore. But what if Andy never gave his toys to Bonnie? Woody might be sitting in a box somewhere depressed and lonely. This whole world with Bonnie might just be a figment of Woody's imagination. It would give him something to think about while he sits and collects dust. Or maybe he has all the other toys acting just like him. He can't imagine how hurt they must have felt when Andy grew up. So this theory makes total sense. Before you go, let us know if you have any other Toy Story 4 theories of your own in the comment section. And be sure to tell us if you think Woody will return to Bonnie or stay with his one true foe. Thanks for watching. Hit that big red subscribe button for more awesome content from the Kings. And don't forget to give this video a big thumbs up. We'll catch you next time. The Loud House is now one of
wondered about that tree in Lake Hylia. You know, that lone tree on that one island. You gotta take a bridge to it, and warp in right beside it. Sheik jumps off the top of it like some sort of angel sign. You know that tree? Okay, the huge freaking scratch in the side of the tree that's only there in the original Nintendo 64 version of the game. No, you're not tripping. It's real, alright. Now, what kind of clawed monstrosity could have scratched this magnificent tree in such a way, and why? Well, let's just say I think I have this figured out.
Hello, my friends on the internet. Master Panda Bandit here, and today I'm going to take you back to your challenge, back to Ocarina of Time. As I mentioned just a few seconds ago in the video, there seems to be a little detail in Lake Hylia and Ocarina of Time that nobody seems to be talking about over the years. I was reminded of it a few content and subscribe for much more juicy Zelda theories. Searching Ocarina of Time's wiki page, I found no enemy that fit both the size and clawed requirements to be our mystery monster. That would also make sense given the lake's location. I mean, we have some beasts that look like they could do something like that, like my boy Dodongo here, or maybe my girl Volvagia, but I couldn't think of any reason why either of them would be cruising out on the lake, you know, being fire creatures and all. It began to become clear to me that I wasn't going to figure this out searching information within Ocarina of Time. However, you know how Zelda games are all held together by that bit of ever so loved and ever so hated thing we call the timeline. Well, it just so happens to link, no pun intended, the Zelda games together. Meaning, the Lake Hylia from Twilight Princess or Breath of the Wild, for instance, is most likely the same lake we see in Ocarina of Time. I took this one step further though, and actually tried to fit Ocarina of Time's Lake Hylia into the one from Breath of the Wild. And wouldn't you know it, it actually fits. Now, hang on, let me explain. An unknown amount of time has passed between the two games, and a lot can happen like terraforming the Earth in that time. But there are some big similarities between the two. If we take Ocarina's Lake Hylia map and overlay it on Breath of the Wild, at first glance it seems to be completely different. I mean, the bridges don't even line up. I was lost until I discovered this little similarity at the top right of the lake. You see, there's a waterfall sitting right there, and directly to the right of it, a path. Kinda, sorta, exactly like the waterfall and path to the right of the waterfall from Ocarina's Lake Hylia. So, with this in mind, if we orient the Ocarina map like this, and overlay it like this, keeping in mind that bridges are man-made and can be changed over time, we see another similarity. And this is the island that the tree was on. It's in roughly the same location as the island with the shrine on it in Breath of the Wild. We are now looking at the same lake that must have, given thousands of years in between games, changed and altered over time, but it's still roughly the same lake. And speaking of Breath of the Wild, which takes place a long time after Ocarina of Time and merges the timelines, I began to ponder if there were any giant clawed beasts that originated in or around Lake Hylia. And if you're any bit a fan of Breath of the Wild, I'm pretty sure you know where I'm going with this. There just so happens to be a giant dragon, complete with claws of the sharpest caliber that makes its home under the waters of Lake Hylia. Meet Farosh, the lightning dragon. Now, I believe this already kind of makes sense, but where's the actual proof? I mean, what more can I bring to the table that would prove that Farosh is the perpetrator who scratched the tree in Ocarina of Time, and why would he do such a thing? You know, I'm so glad you asked that, because I have 3 pieces of really, really good proofs of this theory. First off, if you take a picture of Farosh in Breath of the Wild, his description tells us a couple things about our large flying zappy snake friend. Most importantly, we can read that Farosh is said to have served the Spring of Courage since ancient times. Now, what the Spring of Courage is another theory in and of itself, but what I want to draw attention to is the fact that this dragon is friggin' ancient. Ancient means really old, like possibly old enough to have existed all the way back here in Ocarina of Time. Possibly even older than this, but that's not important for this theory.
if Farosh is that old or older, that means he definitely lived in or under the waters of Lake Hylia in Ocarina of Time. Emphasis on under the waters, by the way, which is my second piece of evidence, which ties into my third piece of evidence, which is, you remember that beloved temple in Ocarina of Time called the Water Temple that's right there in Lake Hylia? Well, you remember these dragon statues that are like all over the place in the Water Temple? You know, the ones that kind of sort of made the head of a serpent-like dragon in a game that already features serpent-like dragons? Well, allow me to suggest that Farosh is the deity for which this entire temple was built to worship and to house him. And he quite possibly still lives under the waters of Lake Hylia in this temple to this day, this day being Breath of the Wild. I know, I'm mind blown, but wait, you thought I forgot. Even if an ancient, giant dragon was old enough to be alive in Ocarina of Time and was living under the waters of Lake Hylia, why makes sense? And how do we know that the temple is still there in Breath of the Wild? And isn't it large for such a relatively small box of a dead tree? Well, first off, did you know that reptiles never stop growing? Pretty cool, right? But that's probably, one, why Farosh is so large in the first place, and two, a means of explaining that he was probably a lot smaller, however many thousand years ago in Ocarina of Time took place. His claws couldn't have easily only been that big, that long ago. Secondly, well, sadly, we actually don't get to explore Breath of the Wild anyway, which is pretty sad to me. I suppose we'll never know, faux show, if the Water Temple is still there or not. But thirdly and lastly, here is my theory as to why Farosh may have clawed the tree in Ocarina of Time. Remember when Ganondorf's power was released after Link opened the doors of Twilight and he was trying to get the Master Sword? Well, remember how Ganondorf wreaked havoc all throughout Hyrule and released monstrosities in the temple? Like Magirl Volvagia in the Fire Temple and Morpheal in the Water Temple? I believe there was a big fight between the dragon and the monster when Morpheal infiltrated the waters of Lake Hylia, and the tree got damaged from the battle. I think they fought over the temple. Morpheal obviously won, and was able to corrupt the temple so that the Water Sage wouldn't rise until the hero later on vanquished Morpheal from the temple. I mean, if you think about it, Morpheal controls water. If that monster at one point controlled all the water of the entire lake before it was drained, man, that must have been a battle of truly epic proportions. So did I convince you? Because I'm convinced. I'm also convinced that you should totally like this video and subscribe to my channel for much more content just like this in the future. See what I did there? Drop me a comment below. Let me know if you think Have you ever heard of Zelda? You know what I'm talking about. The 2 million protagonists Link and Zelda. And how sometimes super almost totally confirmed they're a couple. And sometimes people are like, nah, they're siblings, which is not okay, by the way. Well, in either of those circumstances, if Link and Zelda are related in any way, wouldn't that mean that Link is, you know, a member of the Hylian royal family? We're gonna dive right into Zelda lore and check this stuff out, but first, a message for some very special people. If you'd like to skip the message and get straight to the juicy stuff, feel free to skip ahead to the timestamp displayed on the screen. Go ahead, I'll meet you there. Hey guys, it's me, you know, Massive Nintendo Band. It is way too late to be recording this. But you know what, I don't care. I probably look terrible right now, I'm shaving, super sleepy, stuff like that. I don't even care to do my hair. This, or whatever, I'm getting straight to this. I just wanted to take a second and talk to you. That's right, you there, watching this. I just want to say, happy 200-something subscribers, or whatever it is that we're at right now. I just wanted to take a little bit of time and say something, because it's actually really important to us. I know that this thing is getting up to like a million, that subscribe count for the channel is pretty common, you know, and I really expected it. I'm like, trust me, I am well aware of the size of my own. But that aside, I just wanted to say, do I even know 200 people? I mean, 200 people is kind of a lot. Hours after that, it literally.
So hey guys, Dragon Hunt. You know what that means? It means we got a Dragony sponsor! From first four figures, it's a Spyro statue. Amazing like that. Of Dragon Month, and you thought it was all going to be Dragon type Pokemon stuff. Well, ho ho ho! Even our non-Pokemon content is Dragon today. We need some sort of Dragon representation in Smash Bros, don't we? Huh? Rakdos doesn't count, it's a stupid wyvern. Oh, well, I guess that's really... It's a fantasy dragon. Let's keep adding, keep moving the goalposts. Come on. New Smash Bros characters need to fulfill a certain fact. They need to be fun, and they need to be interesting. Most importantly, they need to be relevant. And while Dragonborn from Skyrim seems like an impeccable choice for Smash, I just don't think Todd has enough money to buy a character slot. So instead, today, we're going to be talking about Spyro the Dragon. No other than the iconic PlayStation mascot that isn't Crash Bandicoot. But we already did Crash Bandicoot. Well then, to my childhood delight, both of these characters got reboots recently, and both were very well received, both in the West and the East. So they are both super relevant again, which told you many some songs about those. Because of that nostalgia, we're going to just stick to the remastered trilogy for movies. Forgetting about all of the other, three trilogies, maybe four, and Skylanders. Like those from Bang Memory do you some good. I actually really liked the second trilogy, but I was a kid. I had some pretty bad opinions as a kid. Well, let's get on with the show. Starting with the specials. Starting with the neutral special, we have the most basic of all Spyro moves, Flame Breath. I mean, why would a dragon not have fire breath? This move is pretty simple. You breathe fire! And just like in the Spyro games, it should be very quick and overall a move that you should use more often than not. Side special is Charge, or Ram, whatever you want to call it. I feel like I don't even have to explain this move. It's called Charge. But because you asked so nicely, I'll explain it anyway. Much like the move in the Spyro games, you charge forward, along with the ability to jump, and you have the ability to stop charging almost instantly. Impacting enemies would cause Spyro to jump backwards, similar to Squirtle's withdraw. However, if he hits non-enemy entities such as walls, he has a decent amount of Thunderlight to shake off the hit. Up special, of course, would be his recovery. However, Spyro can't normally fly, so we went with Glide. Loop Glide, specifically, though in Spyro, unfortunately, the normal Loop Glide has him come out at the same elevation that he started in, so we're going to change that a little bit and say he's a bit higher up. I mean, we're making a Smash Bros. Recovery here. It's got to recover somehow. So instead of this, it would look like that. Kind of like a slow internet browser. But to make up for his terrible recovery, he gets to glide. And no, don't you worry, we're not going to go back to the brawl recovery gliding, where you just up and down in the momentum and you can go wherever. It's literally impossible to edgeguard you. Don't worry. It's straight with a slow descent, and it's not all that fast to glide. Plus, if anyone deserves to glide, in his games, gliding is essentially the third move you do, other than fire and ram. So the glide would activate after his up special, allowing him to have incredible horizontal recovery. Also, you could get a little clever like in the games to add a smidge of height at the very end. Down special would be pretty simple. Head smash, or ground pound. I don't remember exactly, but it does what it says. It pounds the ground, similar to Bowser's and Yoshi's down special, but with a multi-hit spin at the beginning. Okay, so for normal attacks, we don't really have much because we're done in the second trilogy, but I'm sure all of you who came up with it will be satisfactory references. For Jab, we thought, hey, instead of doing a million horn attacks, why not make it a little more interesting? For this, we came up with the move Spark Jab. In this move, Sparks dashes out to attack, similarly to how he goes out and attacks pots. And for visual effect, maybe Spyro swipes at the enemy twice, then Spark dashes out and spawns a pot, only for it to be broken with the gem coming out, because Smash definitely needs another duo character. I mean, all the ones we have are completely unplayable. And we used Akabaku for some attacks for Crash, so Sparks seems to fit, you know? After jab, forward tilt. It's the same move, except it Sparks hitting a metal base in front of Spyro, much stronger than the jab, and fluff! Gem is of player value.
because metal base. Up tilt, we have the dynamite base. Spyro ignites a base that rockets up and explodes. And of course, it'll be much faster than shown here. Let's fast forward the footage. Yeah, that speed. Down tilt, we chose roll. Not necessarily a decently damaging move. Really, this could also be his dodge. But it's a similar move to King Dedede's roll, but it's little and cute. And hey, it could be used as a dodge as well. It's basically a duck that moves you. Now for Spyro's smashes, we thought why not use the superpowers from Crypto's Rage. F smash then would be Fire Blast. While charging, he could also glow red, and once he releases it, a strong blast of fire shoots out, similar to Mega Man's forward smash. For up smash, we have the green power-up, Plasma Bomb. Spyro glows green while charging and releases a large orb above him. However, it arcs back to the ground in front of him and explodes. Thankfully, the orb moves pretty slow. Think of the edge guard potential! Down smash would be the blue power-up, Supercharge. It's just like charge, but super, and only right in front of yourself. Interestingly, it could have a very low knockback angle, kind of like Falcon's down tilt. After the smashes, we have air moves, and Spyro's air moves were hard because, again, he doesn't really do much in the air. I mean, he breathes fire and falls with style. Then we remembered that Spyro was a 90s character, and all 90s characters had a radical skateboard, Spyro included. So we took that as inspiration. I don't even know why the 90s are even considered good. I mean, skateboarding dragons? That's way better than good. That's radical. I mean, Crash uses his yo-yo, so why not a skateboarding dragon? And if you really can't stand that idea for whatever reason, then just let me throw around with your other character. Nair would be a skateboard flip, similar to Pac-Man's Nair, although slower. Down air would be the Raging Ripto, a downward spin attack, I guess, similar to Falco's, but cool, because that has a skateboard. Now for back air, we have Skate Trick. It's not actually something he does in the games, but it's the pose on the cover of Spyro Enter the Dragon. The hitbox would be the skateboard, and it's just a really good, solid hit. For forward air, we went with Aerial Spin, the move you can spam in the loading screens of the reignited games, kinda like Sonic's forward air. For up air, we have his iconic little hover. However, instead of gaining more height, he instead hits above him. And finally, we have the dash attack. Well, because we're unoriginal, we're gonna have to go with charge again, but it's not as menacing, and it's more of like a charge tackle where he slightly jumps, similar to Dedede's dash attack. For grabs, we have him grabbing things with his front claws. He could also bite, although that would make pummels a bit hard as they are small fire breaths. Sneezes, if you will. A common ailment in Dragonkind, just like his in-game title animation. Forward throw, he could use the molten rocks found in his game, possibly Sparks hits you and then he follows up with the rock. Up throw could use the rockets that are also scattered around, but instead of hitting the enemy, he lights a rocket and they fly up with it and explode. Again, his KO move. Down throw would be Spyro firing a fireworks missile downwards, which explodes and launches the foe. Back throw could be a variation of the molten rock, whether the rock would be a green molten rock or something. Change it. And the final smash. Why not the super power-up from the game? Spyro spawns a golden orb and dashes through it and flies off screen, coming back and raining fire down with large explosions. Thankfully, Spyro is a good character and has a rather impressive amount of animations and personality. All his taunts are easy. One taunt could be the animation of when he gets an orb, and he could pull out some glass and look at the screen with an eyebrow raised. Come on. What's cooler than a raised eyebrow? On the spot. And this last one is my favorite. He could spawn a sheep and he flames up with sparks, then eating the butterfly very quickly all around him. And why stop there? The animal that this taunt spawns is random. Oh, and fun detail. When a blue butterfly comes out, the extra life sound effect plays. I love variation, and because Spyro has so many different collectibles, the victory animations could be extremely interesting. We could have Spyro free a dragon, and they could say a quote, like, "Thanks," or he gets a talisman and puts it in his guidebook. He also could hatch a dragon egg, or he could open a chest with like an infinite supply of gems spreading out of it constantly. Also, just think of all the great music and victory music! And as for alt skins, what 90s character would be complete? Cheat codes. Especially cheat codes that change your color. So that of course means blue, red, pink, green, yellow, black, and instead of purple as the last color, stripes. Yeah. And an added feature is that, like in the Spyro games, sparks can change color depending on your damage. So we have yellow sparks when Spyro is at 0 to 50%, and then blue from 50 to 100, and then green from then on. Unfortunately, he wouldn't be able to have no sparks, as he's used in the moveset, but that could just mean he doesn't hit. That's kind of drastic. Seems kind of unfair. And maybe his taunt could heal sparks after he eats a butterfly, but it doesn't actually heal. Visual. It's these little unique quirks that really make a character. As for his idle animations, he's got a lot. I mean, it's the 90s. You had to take out the trash like every 5 seconds. Of course the devs added little idle animations. Overall, Spyro is an interesting character, and personally, I would love to see more non-humanoid characters in Smash. That being said, I get that they're a lot harder to design and how to figure out how to make it work in a fighting game. We came up with only a few ideas for what Spyro's moveset could be.
August 21st, 1959. Hawaii is the 50th, and so far, final state to the United States of America. In the nearly 60 years since this event, many have asked, what's next? First off, a quick explanation of what would be required to become a state. While far more in-depth explanations exist, here's the basics. Approval from Congress is obviously necessary, and while votes can vary based on who's in office, it's generally accepted that 3 rules give a statehood movement real momentum. First off, over 50% of the population should support the movement. Next, the population should agree with the values of American democracy. And finally, the territory should be able to support itself and its share in the federal government. Simple enough?